Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be walking through the machine Sense on HackTheBox. Now, this box is actually in the list of machines that are supposed to emulate the OSCP exam. That list was actually curated by TJ Null, so I'll keep his channel information in the description below. But a little bit of background on the machine. This is actually a really cool machine because it's semi-realistic, and some of the HackTheBox machines can feel like CTF sometimes, but this one is actually going to be exploring a misconfigured firewall management tool called pfSense. pfSense actually comes with a web management interface, which we'll come to see, and we can see how leaving this open and leaving it misconfigured can lead to the complete and total compromise of a system. So with all of that background out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Now, to get things started, I actually created a directory with the IP address of the target in it. That way we had the IP address handy whenever we needed it. To do that, it's very simple. You just run the make directory command with the name of the directory afterwards, but we're already there. We're CD'd into it. Now we can go ahead and kick a port scan off. To kick the port scan off, we're going to do as follows. So we're going to use sudo, and we're going to need sudo because one of the flags that we need to use as a required option for the scan is going to require root privileges. So we're going to do sudo and then nmap, and then we're going to do dash lowercase s capital S, and that is going to run a SYN scan, or a stealth scan is another name for it. The next flag that we're going to use is dash lowercase s capital V, and then you're going to see it kind of in the autocomplete here, but we're also going to use capital C, but I'm going to back up 1 second before we finish that. So dash lowercase s capital V is actually for version scanning. So if it identifies an open port, it's going to try to connect to that port and see if it can grab a banner and see if we can get the version from that service. Now, we are going to add capital C, but what that's actually a shorthand for is dash lowercase s capital C. And now that is a flag that runs default scripts on the port, and it's going to try to identify that service that's on the port, and then if it matches a service, it's going to run some default scripts on that port to try to gain further information from it. So you can actually shorthand both of those into dash lowercase s capital V capital C. Now, the next thing that we're going to run is dash capital P lowercase n, and that is going to stop the host ping discovery in the scan. What that does is it tries to send a ping request and see if we get a reply from the machine. We don't need to do that because we know that the machine is alive on the network. We know it's there. There's no reason to discover it. Next thing we're going to do is dash capital T4. Now, dash capital T is for template scanning, and it's really all you use for speed. So 1 would be the slowest and 5 would be the fastest. I've found that 4 is the best happy medium for both accuracy and efficiency in these HackTheBox machines. Next thing I'm going to use, this isn't required. None of these are technically required. This is what I like to do, but I'm going to use VV rather, and that, or you can do V2. That also works, but it's just going to provide you some more verbose output as the scan runs. Then what you would need to do is 10.10.10.60 is mine, or the IP address of your target. And then the last flag that we're going to use is dash lowercase o capital A, and that is to output into all formats. So it'll save the output of the scan into a bunch of different formats. That way you can use the different formats for different searching if there was a lot of information there. And I called mine TCP scan. You can go ahead and run this and wait for that to finish, but I actually already completed it in advance. So I'm going to go ahead and cat out the file and show you guys exactly what this looks like. Now, there's only 2 ports open on this machine, and it's 80 and 443. So we know that this is just a web server that we're attacking, and you're going to get basically the same information from the 80 as you would 443, but just a little bit extra information on 443 because it is HTTP, just like 80 is, but it's over SSL. So you get all the encryption information, like the certificate information, registration information, so on and so forth. That's not really important to us at the moment, so not a ton there that we can do with outside of if we were to find subdomains in the certificate, but in this case we won't. The other thing that we want to look at here that's important to note is the version information. So we actually see that in the HTTP server header, we're seeing this light HTTP 1.4.3.5. Now that is important because whenever you see a version number, especially a specific version number like that, that can help us enumerate potential vulnerabilities against the machine, so on and so so forth. But since we technically have all that out of the way, let's go ahead and open a Firefox window and see if we can get some more information from this. So if we go ahead and we do http://10.10.10.60, which was the IP address of our target, and we go ahead and we browse there, it looks like we have this login page. Now, the login page is great. We can try a bunch of different things. Anywhere where you can do input, my mind immediately jumps to injection attacks, especially when we don't have credentials. You could do things like try to get SQL injection to bypass the authentication, but I'm going to save you guys some time here, and that's not what we're going to do. It's not going to work. Another thing that I would try is some default credentials, and we can just do that really quick. You could try like admin, so on and so forth. Again, not going to work. So you're kind of stuck at this login page. There's nothing here. You can't look into the source code for the page. There's nothing in the source code. So you're really stuck. The only thing that you could really do from here is to look at hidden content on the server. One way to do that, and an easy way to do it, is to use the tool Dirbuster. It's a graphical interface, so we'll get a little bit more hands-on here. It's not as scary as some of the command line tools, but what we'll do is we want to run a Dirbuster scan and try to brute force hidden content that might be located on the server. The reason we're doing that first is because we want to finish enumerating the target before we actually go ahead and start attacking it. So we'll go ahead and we'll put in the IP address of the target, which is 10.10.10.60, and then :443 since we're doing this over HTTPS. And then I like to look for PHP files and then also text files. The only other thing that we need to do is click into browse for the word list that we're going to try to brute force with, and I'm going to use the one in user share, come over to where the D is at, go into derb word lists, and then I'm going to use big.text. That just really makes sure that all of our bases are covered and that we're properly brute forcing all the possible items that are in a large list of things. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and then I will jump back with you guys in 1 minute when this is done running. Okay, so I was rerunning that scan for demonstration purposes, and it turns out that scan is actually taking a criminally long time and will make recording this video turn into a ridiculously long process. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to show you guys the file that you will find in that scan to continue enumerating and will help you get the foothold here. Eventually, if you continue enumerating the scan, you will find a file called system-users.txt. And now I hope if you find a file called system-users.txt on a web application that you would check this out, and it would look interesting, but this would be a file that you would find and you would definitely want to check it out. If you look at here, it looks like somebody accidentally uploaded a support ticket into the web root on this web server, and it looks like we have the username Rohit and then a password just says company defaults. Now we know that we're working with a pfSense login interface, so if we go over and we just type in pfSense default credentials, we should be able to see that the default password is pfSense. Now, if we put these together, we should have the credentials Rohit and the password pfSense. So look at that. Now we have a little bit of a foothold. We can see we're logged into the management interface. Now let's see what we can do with the management interface. So if we just start clicking around, it looks like there's not quite a ton here. We can list the interfaces, the firewalls. Doesn't look like much of this is configured. We can check the statuses of different gateways. Not a ton here that we would really be able to leverage to do much. However, we can check out and see that we are running what version of pfSense that we're running. And we see that right here at the top. So we're in 2.1.3. Now, if you get access to an interface, there's typically some credentialed operations that you can perform even if they're not fully apparent just by clicking around. And sometimes you can even run exploits that are credentialed even if it doesn't seem like the management interface that you got access to really is exploitable. So to go ahead and check into that, we can look at our terminal over here and we can use a tool called searchsploit. Now I'm going to use searchsploit, and then the terms after searchsploit are how you're going to be able to look for things. So I'm going to do searchsploit, and then I'm just going to type in pfSense, and we are in 2.1.3. Now it looks like with pfSense that is less than 2.1 2.1.4, which in our case we're on 2.1.3, there is command injection. And this is really awesome because we can actually leverage this to execute remote code on the operating system. So one thing that you can do, so you can see that there's this exploit, this path here at the end. What we can do is we can do search exploit. So it's in the search exploit directories. You can use -m, and then this name of the file, so this Python file, the name of this file is actually a unique identifier. So you can just do m and then type in the number that is the exploit file, and it'll clone it to your local repository so you can run the exploit and not need to leverage Metasploit like you would want to avoid on the OSCP exam. So what we can do is 43560, and that will get cloned down. So now if we clear this and do ls, we can see that that file is up and ready to be configured. Let's go ahead and check out this file. So I'm just going to do vim on this file and see what we need. So it looks like we are going to need as an argument, you can check down here on line 24 through 30. It looks like we need a remote host, a listening host, a listening port, and then a username and a password. And we actually have all of those. So we can go ahead and set this exploit up and hopefully be able to leverage the manual exploitation and not need to use the Metasploit use case on the OSCP exam. So let's go ahead, we'll do colon and quit. Doesn't look like we need to configure anything. It's actually just going to take it as an argument. So that's super awesome. So let's go ahead. I'm going to actually split our terminal real quick here and just show you guys how we can grab our IP address, because we're going to need that. You're just going to run ifconfig on this side, and you're looking for the ton0 interface. So this 10.10.14 is going to be our HackTheBox VPN IP address. So it looks like we're 10.10.14.14, so that will be our listening host argument. So now that we know what that is, we can actually just go ahead and kill that terminal over here. We'll just say yes. So now we saw that that exploit script was running Python 3, so we just need to do Python 3, and then we will run this 443 something 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 and tab to complete it. And now we just need to enter in our arguments. So first thing we needed was the remote host, so the actual target, and that is right up top here. So that's 10.10.10.60. Next thing that we need is the listening host, so that was called lhost. So we're going to set the lhost to 10.10.14.14, and that's the IP address of us on our ton0 interface. We just looked that up on the other side. Now we need a listening port to connect back on. I'll just do 443 because it's already operating over 443. Actually, you know what? Because it's operating on 443, I'm going to do 1234. That way we don't have any port conflicts and it's just all going to operate smoothly. Next one we'll do is -- I believe it was username. If this fails, we'll go back and set it to user, but I believe it was username, and that was Rohit. And then we needed our password. Again, I think this was password and not pass. So we'll go ahead and just type in password and then give it our password, which was pfSense. If we go ahead and run this, we should be able to exploit the target with our manual exploit that we pulled down from the Metasploit database. So we see it's running, it's going to run, and our script actually failed because we forgot to start a listener. So we need a listener to catch our reverse shell on. So let's go ahead and split the terminal again because we're going to need that. And then we need to start a listener on the port that we want to catch this on, so on our local port. So we're going to do sudo nc and then -lvnp. So L is for listening mode, V is for verbose output, N is for no DNS name resolution, because when the target machine is going to make a call out to our IP address, we don't have a domain name associated with our IP address. That way it just stops that name resolution from happening altogether. And then P is to specify the port. So we just need to do 1234 because that is the local port that we're specifying over on the left-hand side. So let's go ahead and start that netcat listener. And now let's try to run this exploit one more time. So if we go ahead and we run this, it should connect back, and we'd see that it connects back on the other side. So we can already tell that we are the root user, which means that we're going to be able to get both flags just from this simple exploit. So we say, who am I? We get root. Let's go ahead. We can cd to the root directory just to be 100% positive. You see we are in fact accessing the root directory. We'll do ls and we can cat out the root.txt file. So that is our root flag. And then I believe we can try to find the user flag. Let's cd all the way back to the root of the file system and see what we have going on there. It looks like if we go to the home directory and cd to Rohit, which would make sense that that is the other user on the machine, and then we ls from there, we have the user.txt file as well. So we can go ahead and cat out the user.txt file and we will have both of our flags. All right, so that is basically everything there. So I hope you guys enjoyed walking through that one with me. That's a fun one, and it's honestly pretty representative of what you would see on the OSCP exam. It does a great job of showing you that you can find credentials somewhere, but that's not always going to lead to the first and most obvious exploit. You need to continue enumerating and use your enumeration skills to really hone in on what that exploit is there. Additionally, I thought it was super cool that we were able to showcase how to exploit something without just using the Metasploit module. So you get to see how pulling down a local copy of an exploit and then using that local copy of the exploit to, not burn your Metasploit module use case on the exam can really turn around and help you. So if you guys liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm really trying to pump out more content lately and keep things up to date on the channel. But with all of that out of the way, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.